Hello everyone. Now that I've done 2 recordings to cover what I consider to be the common hot topics, now I'm going to do a recording to focus on what I think are the best guns of Warzone. As before, guns are personal preference, so all I can do is look at the numbers, the recoil pattern, their attachments, and things like that. With that in mind, we'll go and start with the snipers. As I mentioned in my last recording, the Dragunov is for people who are struggling to hit the head. The HDR and AX50 are better for longer ranges and hitting the head than the Dragunov. As you can see here, the Dragunov's effective range goes out to 78 meters, while the HDR and AX50 are going to be a one hit down on the head at any range. So it really depends on what your skill set is and what you're capable of. But as far as just looking at the raw numbers and other factors, the Dragunov is going to be a little bit more forgiving than the other two thanks to its higher RPM. So that's your snipers. Moving into LMGs. When it comes to LMGs, they're going to be just like the snipers. Each one has its own purpose. With that said, the PKM is going to be your long-range fire support weapon. It's capable of a faster ADS than the Bruen is when using a 100-round belt. For that reason, the PKM is going to be able to react to certain situations a little bit better than the Bruen. The Bruen is going to be a middle ground between the S87 and the PKM. It's going to have a bit more mobility, and it's just going to be overall friendlier to most people in terms of its recoil and other things. The S87, however, is going to be a more aggressive LMG. It's going to be almost as mobile as the Bruen in terms of raw percent, but the one thing that the S87 makes up for is in standard sprint out time. Standard sprint out time is the time it takes for a gun to be ready after leaving sprint. The S87 is going to be the fastest of the three. That's why I was saying the Bruen is the middle ground and PKM specific towards being weapon support. But yeah, S87 is going to be more friendly to people who are aggressive because it's just faster on the standard sprint out time, and it does have a fairly competitive percent movement speed when it's fully modified. In my builds, the S87 is capable of 90% movement speed, the Bruen is 93, and the PKM is 86. So there's all that in as short of a order I can put it. You can see the charts for yourself. I'll link this in the description. As far as ARs are concerned, I don't know why I have that up. That should be over there. As far as ARs are concerned, I would say the RAM is the most flexible AR of Warzone. It can be modified in a way that it works great for close quarters combat. Thanks to its 544 millisecond time to kill, it will outkill an MP7 in close quarters combat. It's just going to have a slower standard sprint out time, which, as I mentioned, is the time it takes to ready your gun after leaving a sprint. But if you can get the timing down of the sprint to gun ready time, then you can certainly use this in close quarter situations. It's certainly going to do a lot better than most guns thanks to not only its mobility but also its time to kill as well as RPM. So it's an overall flexible and fairly friendly gun. Now, the recoil is the only thing that brings this gun down and what gets people to call it trash. Most of the time, it's because they'll pick up the Sandstorm and then they're just like, oh my gosh, this is trash, but it's not true. The RAM just needs a muzzle brake or the Ranger barrel to be a little bit friendlier with that. That's all there is to it. It's just like the AK, as I was mentioning in my prior video. People pick up the green version of it on the ground and then call it trash, but that's because people full auto it. They don't try to control their bursts or recoil at all. So of course it's not going to be friendly, and of course you're not going to have fun with it. It's because it requires a more advanced skill set to make use of. But as far as the AK is concerned, I would classify this as a good ranged AR. Thanks to its upper torso multiplier, which we'll go back here so you can see that, it's very capable of hitting at distances, and normal AR shouldn't be, at least when it comes to automatics. So for that reason, I would label the AK as a good ranged AR build. You can certainly increase it even further if you need to, although the ADS will be quite slow. As far as the AK's conversion, I'll go and real quickly cover that. The problem with the AK's conversion is that it does lower its effective range in terms of where that upper torso multiplier is being applied. You can see that here. It does get a slightly faster time to kill, but at the end of the day, I don't think it's worth it for the fact that it's only 30 rounds with the 5.45. It requires an attachment slot, and it's just much harder to use. So these are the rifles that I would recommend right away. I would not recommend the M4 as nearly as much as the other ones, and that's just because it got a nerf in Season 2 with its range, so it's quickly outpaced by the RAM and the AK when it comes to ranged fights. Unfortunately, its time to kill is 576 milliseconds, so it has no way to make up for the gap between these two, because the AK's 47s is 535, and RAM's is 544, so they're clearly much quicker. So I would say that that's my ranking for ARs. I'll go ahead and quickly cover the Kilo. This is not going to be in my normal recommendations, just because of the fact that it's a really slow time to kill. Yes, it's noob friendly, I get it, but you're really doing a disservice to yourself if you're not learning the game. If you want to get better at Warzone, you have to learn how to control your recoil, you have to learn to fire in bursts and all this other stuff. That's the entire reason the Grau became a bandwagon gun. It's because it's just so easy to use, and the Kilos are the same thing. So I would say that if you're absolutely unable, for some reason, to grasp the concepts of Warzone, or for that matter, COD in general, then I would recommend the Kilo. At least it's going to be a better pick than the Grau. But I would sooner recommend the other two, the Ram 7 and AK, before I would ever recommend the Kilo. Okay, one last thing I want to cover, and this is going to be more or less a section devoted to, I guess, the future of COD, because the Explosive Ace hasn't posted numbers on the Renetti as far as I've been able to tell. So my reason for wanting to take the time to mention the Renetti is, let's just say that the numbers get posted and they do look good, then I'm going to guess that the Renetti is going to be the best CQC weapon, like for really, really close range. The reason I don't recommend SMGs is because outside of the P90, they're actually short-ranged, like really, really short-ranged, and they don't have a good time to kill for that distance. The MP5 has an amazing time to kill, but its range is only 12.5 meters, which means that certain areas of, say, the hospital building are going to be more than 12.5 meters, therefore it's not going to be that great for it. The Renetti, however, even on its burst barrel, has more range than the MP5. It's well past 12.5 meters, it's probably closer to 20, which puts it at about the range of a P90. For that reason, I'm thinking that if the numbers are good when they get posted, the Renetti will take over as the CQC weapon and make it so people don't need overkill. In multiplayer, the Renetti with burst and its lightweight trigger has a faster time to kill and more range than an MP5. So this weapon is actually extremely good in multiplayer, but because of armor plates and other things, it's very hard to tell if those stats transfer over to Warzone. I get a feeling that if it's going to be really good in Warzone, then it's eventually going to get nerfed into the ground like everything else that they've done. So we're not really going to see this weapon as much when that happens, and at that point the RAM will take over for CQC. I doubt they're going to change the RAM. It really hasn't changed at all since its introduction. So I guess we'll see, but that's just my current thought process with all of that. But for now, I hope this helps you determine your gun in Warzone. Good luck.